It has quite a few things we're going to talk about in verse 11 specifically. But little background, Jesus has been taken to Pilate right now, and the Jews are trying to have him crucified, and just told Pilate, we have a law, he broke it, or as we'll see, he broke it, he made himself the Son of God. And that's, to them, that's blasphemy, which is worth death. So as it says here in verse 7, we have a law, the Jews replied to him, and according to the law, he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. By the way, guys, there's plenty of verses, John 8, John 10, and here we see that Jesus claims and has claimed to be God and equal with God. So if anyone ever tells you that he didn't, they're flat out wrong. Do a Google search, verses where Jesus claimed to be God. Boom, right there, you'll have your answer. Now, continuing in verse 8. While Pilate heard this statement, he was more afraid than ever. He went back into the headquarters and asked Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus did not give him an answer. So Pilate said to him, "Do you refuse to speak to me? Don't you know that I have the authority to release you and the authority to crucify you?" "You have no authority over me at all," Jesus answered him, "if it hadn't been given to you from above. This is why the one who handed me over to you has the greater sin." So guys, basically, Pilate has been trying to get Jesus released because he knows he's an innocent man, but he's caving to political and peer pressure. And when they say that he is claimed to be the Son of Man, it freaks Pilate out, whether he's a superstitious man because he's Roman and they have so many gods, or the fact that in Matthew talks about Pilate's wife, coming and saying she had this horrible, horrific nightmare. You should let this innocent man go free, talking about Jesus. Whatever it is, it freaks him out. And he goes back and decides, hey, let me, where are you from? What's going on here? I want to know the truth. And Jesus is silent. And this annoys Pilate. That is also fulfillment of prophecy, where Jesus is supposed... Sorry, my cat's being crazy. But Jesus is supposed to be as a silent lamb to the slaughter. Well, I really butchered that. But moving on. What you do see here is Jesus' response is very, very interesting. Verse 11. "You have no authority over me at all, if it hasn't been given to you from above." Remember, all this crazy stuff that's going on, as we read in John previously, Jesus knew this was going to happen. He knew the plan. He understood all these things he was going to face. The fact is God was in control. The only reason Pilate had the authority to crucify Jesus and to do it was because it was within his plan. And that's just a reassuring fact that when, evil things are happening and the world is winning, we always can know that God has his plan, and these things are happening because they're within his plan. He's allowing them to happen, but he will triumph overall. God has everything planned for. He wasn't surprised that Pilate was going to give in to peer pressure and political pressure and crucify Jesus. He's like, no, you're going to do that. And then Jesus will be crucified on the cross, becoming sin, bearing everyone's sin, raising again 3 days later. Boom, my plan's better than what you thought. And that's the great thing. So just remember that. God's in control, guys. So not only that, Jesus says this is why the one who handed me over to you has the greater sin. It's really interesting. It goes against the idea that people believe that all sin is equal. That is not true. Now, what I don't want to say is I don't want to downplay sin. All sin is horrible, is evil. It is missing the mark of God. It's not righteousness. It's vile and disgusting. That is what sin is. But some sins are more vile and more disgusting than other sins. For instance, if some kid stole paper clips or candy bars from a convenience store like 7-Eleven, that is a sin and that is wrong, but is not as bad as someone who openly murders and people for fun. Like, that sin is worse, like, objectively. So there is worse punishments and worse, like, God is a just God. He will punish those accordingly. It's not like it's not like, oh, everyone sins so they get this blanket punishment. No, you will be punished for what you have done and what you have bore, unfortunately, from not choosing Jesus, from deciding to bear your own sins. But again, that's not to downplay sin. All sin is wrong. Even here, he doesn't downplay Pilate. He says, Pilate, the ones who have handed me over to you are the ones who have the greater sin, which means, Pilate, you have sinned. So one way to look at it is, this is knowledge. Because the ones that he's talking about here is most likely the Jews, especially the Sanhedrin and the high priests. These people should know who Jesus is. They have the Old Testament, which screams Jesus. Literally, if you go through the Old Testament, you can find imagery of him throughout the books. Mike Winger on his Bible Thinker YouTube has a series called Jesus in the Old Testament, where you can see imagery and pictures of Jesus. Look at the prophecies that are about Jesus. I mean, Isaiah 52 through 53 is literally the prophecy of Jesus dying on the cross and being the suffering servant 500 years before Jesus was around. So the Old Testament screams about Jesus, the coming Messiah, the Christ. And yet these Jews who, by the time they're like 13 or 14, have the Torah memorized, aren't even recognizing him. But instead, because they want to, be the authoritative spiritual men of Judaism, and they're the strong ones that you come to, not Jesus. How dare he? He's evil. We're the high priests. We're the Sanhedrin. We're the Pharisees. They have him crucified. In the other Gospels, in Matthew and Mark, it talks about how Pilate knows that the high priests have turned Jesus in because they're envious. They're jealous of Jesus and what he's doing. And that's the thing. The world doesn't like Jesus. And so they should know Jesus, their Messiah, and they're missing the ball here. So their sin is greater than Pilate's. Now, Pilate's is probably greater than the guards, because the guards, they're doing what they're told, but Pilate knows that Jesus is an innocent man, and he still doesn't let him go. So this kind of shows you that there is different, sins, and it really comes down to especially knowledge. And so, guys, with that, I want you to focus on this. Jesus did all of this and faced all of this pressure and horrible outcome. Well, not horrible outcome, but horrible process to have the best outcome. And that is salvation for us, defeating sin and death. So as we go into Easter, guys, be excited. Share the gospel with your family members that you see, because guess what? This is probably one of the few times that some of those family members will actually come. So really spend the time to go, hey guys, look what Jesus did for you. He bore all this pain and suffering for you so that you can have a relationship with him. So guys, on that, I want you to stay safe, be blessed, and share the gospel. Safe, be blessed, and share the gospel. It has quite a few things we're going to talk about in verse 11 specifically. But little background, Jesus has been taken to Pilate right now, and the Jews are trying to have him crucified, and just told Pilate, we have a law, he broke it, or as we'll see, he broke it, he made himself the Son of God. And, that's, to them, that's blasphemy, which is worth death. So, as it says here in verse 7, we have a law, the Jews replied to him, and according to the law, he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. By the way, guys, there's plenty of verses, John 8, John 10, and here we see that Jesus claims and has